What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Hope you all have had a fantastic week. I know I have. Excited to bring another interview your way this week. Really been getting to know this person a little bit here and learning more about what they do to help people, and really wanted to share that all with you because that's just what we do here on the Strength for Your Purpose podcast is help you build the mental, emotional, and physical strength you need to fulfill your true purpose in life. So without further ado, my guest today is Jeff Long, who is a health and wellness consultant with Arbonne and has been doing that for 7 years. He's from right here in Leamington, Maine, where he lives with his wife, Lynn, of 28 years. He has 2 children, Nick and Jordan, and 2 grandchildren, Aubrey and Walker, along with an old stubborn black lab named Brody. And in his free time, likes to do DIY projects, woodworking, paintball, traveling, anything in the outdoors, and problem solving, while helping to educate people on clean eating. Jeff, what's up, man? Thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
Hey, Phil, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Love having this opportunity.
Yeah. Well, again, happy to have you because it definitely fits in with what we're trying to do here and the information we're trying to get out to people. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the health consulting with Arbonne, because I also saw in your bio sheet there that you did 32 years in the chemicals business, cleaning and chemicals business. So tell me a little bit about that journey.
Well, let's address the chemical thing real quick. So, I mean, it sounds real synergistical, right? Coming from the chemical industry and going into the health and wellness field. But I honestly think it gives me a unique edge because for me, I really love educating people, and most of it is about ingredients and what to look for when they're shopping in the foods and stuff. And, coming from the chemical industry, when I'm seeing products that we used to use in cleaning products that we've removed scents from cleaning products because they're bad for the environment, and seeing that what the chemical industry loves to do is take those materials that they still have to figure out a way to sell and push them into the food industry. And we see that happen many times, and it's shameful. But anyways, what got me started was, back probably 8 years-ish ago, I started, like most people, that I started to have a health issue. And like most people, that woke me up to, I needed to make a change. And, I had the option of going the conventional medicine route, where I would spend the rest of my life on a prescription medicine so that I wasn't in agony from day to day because of the severe gut issue that I had. Or I could find a way to naturally heal myself. And, fortunately I was blessed that, Arbonne was, there in front of me, and I had heard enough about it to realize that maybe that was a solution for me. So I started using the Arbonne products, which is the company that I represent. And they instantly made a huge difference in my health and for me. And then I started to realize that not only were the products helping, but what I was learning about diet and such in the process that I was being taught, I learned what foods weren't working for me either. So, and that's kind of what got me started. And I just became more and more passionate about ingredient and policy. And though I'm not running around as an advocate in the industry to, fight on an industrial level, I am trying to fight by educating people about the things that I have learned and show them how easy it is to really make a difference in their health.
Yeah. That's huge. And I think it carries so much weight when you've been able to experience it yourself.
Phil, I lost you on audio.
Oh, did you? Oh no. Well, and that's really interesting, Jeff, because I think some of what you're talking about here holds that much more weight when it's coming from someone who actually experienced it. Like, you lived the actual change. And knowing you as well as I do know you now, and even just from what you've talked about so far, I don't think you're someone that's going to say something just to sell something. I don't think that's, and I'm sure people can pick that up a little bit just from your personality talking so far. So yeah, when you first got into that, were you kind of approached by someone who maybe went through something similar to you? Like, is that how you sort of got partially how you got introduced to it? Because I think for people listening who are wondering about it a little bit, the proof's in the pudding, so to speak. Like you've been doing this for 7 years now, and that health issue was taken care of by making the changes you made. So speak a little bit to that, and if that played a role in your journey as well.
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So, I mean, the reality is this: the stuff that I've learned and that we teach is not going to be heard in your doctor's office or in in the hospital, because most doctors aren't educated about nutrition. The only ones who really are like your holistic nutritionists, who really understand how important the quality of the food is that we eat. And I will tell you, going way back, I thought it was quackery because I didn't believe it until I had the experience and then felt it. And I spent almost, a good 20 adult years or better of just being able to eat whatever I want without having any harmful side effects that I know of. All right. Or that I realized at the time. What we don't realize is, as we continuously eat bad and all of a sudden our bodies start to exhibit symptoms, what it's telling us is likely something we're doing is way wrong. Right. So like, you help with the structure of the body. And, when I'm getting a weird pain, it's my body telling me something isn't right.
Right.
When it comes to food, it's usually your skin is having a reaction that's odd, like a rash, or it's dry, or something to that effect. Most skin issues start in the gut. Or, we're having acid reflux, or we're having digestive issues, or IBS, or there's all these things that we're having as these like warning signs that something we're doing in our diet isn't right. So, how did I find out? So the whole reason for kind of sharing that with you was, when I had my severe issue, it was 2 trips to the emergency room, thinking it was a full blown on heart attack. And them saying, there is something wrong with your heart. We don't know what it is. You need to see a specialist. So I go to a specialist, and the whole time I'm taking an aspirin, which they told me to take, which a specialist said, with your issue, is the very worst thing you could have been taking. Right.
Yikes.
And for a week, I thought I was dying. Like literally, my heart was all over the place. I'd sit on the couch and it would beat so erratically, it would make my body move and like it would shake around. So just really weird stuff. So when I went to see the specialist said, from everything you're telling me, I guarantee you got a gut issue. We did the stress test and he was right, because when he put me on the omeprazole prescription, it was, it was like within a day, I was way better. Like it was almost a complete turnaround. But omeprazole is a product that is made to make your body do something that your body is not naturally supposed to do. It blocks your body's ability to create, to produce acid. And we need that acid, because without that acid, we're not getting the full digestion of our food like we should.
Right.
So instead of telling me what I really needed to do, because he doesn't know, and he probably couldn't tell you without becoming a heretic, right? Because it goes against, the big pharma and, the whole standard, medicine route to be able to give nutrition advice. They can't. So maybe he knows this, and maybe he would have been like, I'm just going to go home and, eat something healthy, and good luck, because he can't tell me, you know what I mean? So anyways, when he gave me that drug and it's blocking my body's natural ability to do what it's supposed to do, eventually that drug is going to cause an issue, because it comes with its own side effects. And I knew this, and I'm like, anything ever that I've ever had going on in my life, I realized I could cure it mostly through something natural, and not weird natural, but just by doing what we should probably be doing anyways.
Sure.
And, me, I network a lot. So I am out meeting business professionals all the time and learning about what they do, and they learn about what I do. And at this point, I'm in the chemical industry. I'm not even into, the nutrition and the health and wellness side of it at all. And I just happen to know somebody from Arbonne who was always talking about, Arbonne's 30 Days to Healthy Living, and about eating the right foods, and about how the products help with different symptoms. So I just reached out to that person and said, what does Arbonne have? And she set me up with something that was going to help get my gut back in line.
Mm.
And I started using it, and within a few days I was off the omeprazole, and I've never looked back. But because of the fact that this was working for me, there was a reason I was having the gut issue, and I knew I needed to make some other changes. And that led me into doing a whole 30-day cleanse where I cut out all the allergenic stuff from my diet. Arbonne comes in by helping me to, help support my organs of elimination so I could get rid of the toxins that are in my body that aren't serving me. And by toxin, I don't mean like radioactive waste. I just
Sure.
mean things that the body can't identify as food. So it's got to figure out what to do with it. And for most of us, the body can't keep up with it because we're so exposed all the time.
Gotcha.
But anyways, once I did that and for 30 days, cleaned that up, it completely just made a huge change in my body. And there's so many awesome things that I saw. And then it made me think about the way I wanted to live the rest of my life. I didn't want to be one of those people carrying around an oxygen tank or not being able to play with the grandkids or, dealing with icing my knees every night like I always have had to for years on end. And, it was just fortunate for me that the person who I knew from Arbonne had the same issue I had, which is called esophageal spasms, which instead of acting like your typical acid reflux, mimics a heart attack. So she suffered from the same thing. So it was just her sharing good information with me, and that good information just changed the course of my life essentially forever. So
well, like I said, thanks so much for sharing that, because it definitely holds more weight when people have experienced it, because I think some people hear the term Arbonne, or you think of some of the other things out there that are more, based in the network marketing field, and there can be a little bit of a turnoff because, like, listen, I don't want to be a part of your pyramid scheme. I'm sure you've heard it all, Jeff, right? I'm sure you've heard it all.
Absolutely. Yes.
But when it's coming from someone who's actually seen and can physically report the change that backs up the claims that the company is making, with their products, like what their products do, there's something to it, and there's something more to it than that, which is why I don't shy away from that, or shy away from sending people that when they're looking for their changes in their nutrition. But to speak a little bit too about the healthcare system you were talking about there, the unfortunate thing is some of those people sometimes they just simply don't have the time, and because they don't have the time, and the people that teach them know that, they don't learn about it because they're never going to come across it, because there's people they can send those folks to get that kind of help. The thing is do all of them do that? At least your provider had the due diligence to say, hey, I think it's something more like this, let's treat it that way. And then that at least led you on the path. So kudos to your provider for like figuring that out and getting you eventually to the right place. But I mean, you definitely got to find the right providers that are going to do that within the time that they have to do it. And that's why people like yourself are such great resources for stuff like this, because you have the time to be able to make that change and talk about that change with people in a way that's going to be much more in depth than what they're getting in the regular healthcare system.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I don't want to vilify the doctors out there because they spend years and years and, getting educated. The problem is they're not given the resources and the education that they need for certain things. So, and nutrition 100%. Is a huge one. My provider that I had, not the heart specialist who I saw, but my primary care physician who I had, ran a ton of tests on me because of some of the issues I was having that were all related to my gut. Like I was chronically fatigued for years. I literally could not get in my vehicle, drive 5 minutes down the road without nodding off. I used to drive halfway home, pull over and nap for 15 or 20 minutes so that I could then make the rest of the trip home because I was so chronically fatigued. So I had a sleep apnea test, no sleep apnea. I had blood work done, nothing wrong with my blood work. And just on and on testing and never finding a result until one day he just says to me, I don't know what to tell you, drink more coffee. And the problem is I hate coffee. I can't stand the taste. Like I literally despise the taste of coffee.
Yeah.
And so I resorted to Monster Energy drinks. And, the problem with so many products that are out there is they contain harmful ingredients, and those harmful ingredients will take their toll over time.
Yeah.
And it did on me. And it started out like literally the symptoms went on for a while because I would get a stab in the chest that would hurt so bad for 15 or 20 seconds, I wouldn't move, because if I did, it would only make it worse.
Wow.
And then it would go past. And I'm a guy, so, for all you women who are out there who are going to hear this and think, what I'm about to say, I understand, but you need to understand I'm a guy, and we have to make sure we're dying before we go get help.
Right,
because,
sure.
Why waste a trip, right? If it's nothing, why waste a trip? So like literally when I was, having this first symptom of having a heart attack, I called my wife and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. Like I had pain up the arm into the jaw. Wow. My heart, I could feel, was all over the place. I was dizzy. I felt like instantly the worst I ever felt. My wife says, do you want to go meet me at Quick Care? And I will tell you right now, if you have a heart issue, never go to Quick Care. They can't help you there.
No, they can't.
Call an ambulance and go right into the hospital. And this is easier to say than it is do, because I didn't do that. I said to my wife, I'm going to go back and I'm going to have some lunch. And if it doesn't clear up over lunch, then we'll go to Quick Care. It didn't clear up over lunch. So I called her, we went to Quick Care. And by the time I got to Quick Care, it subsided. And they said, call your primary physician. So I called him and he says, look, Jeff, if this happens again, call an ambulance, because if you die on the way in, they're not going to be able to help you. An ambulance can. Did I heed the warning? No, I did not. Instead, I waited until after the nice meal my wife just finished to say, now we need to go to the hospital. And she used a few sentence enhancers and then brought me there. But I was fortunate, and the problem is we let this stuff go. We let it go, and we don't realize that we really do need to do something when we're exhibiting symptoms and things aren't right. And I think part of the biggest problem that we have, and you were talking about network marketing, right? And, don't want to do your pyramid scheme and stuff like that. First of all, let me just say that I am 100% on board with what you just said, because that was me forever. But what I found out about Arbonne was we are a relationship-based company. We help people to solve problems and buy what they want, when they want, on their terms, and back it unconditionally, because we believe in what we do and we believe in our products so much. But I think the biggest problem out there isn't the fear for that. The biggest problem is the confusion that is out there with all these gimmicks. You can't, you tell me, you can't hop on Facebook without seeing a gimmick, can't you? You know what I mean?
So true.
There's all these like people trying to convince you to click their link to go look at their product. And I go, and I will, because I'm curious, I will go and look at their ingredient policy, and they'll either lose me in 5 seconds, or I will go, good for you, because you're doing it right. And there aren't as many good for you, you're doing it right, than the ones that I click off from and go, I can't believe that people, buy this stuff, but they don't know. Right. And that's what leads people to not making a decision, is because they're afraid that it's just going to be one more thing. And, I'll tell you, the biggest thing somebody can do for their health is so simple. Stop listening to all the gimmick. There's no one quick fix for anything in your health. You have to do the work, and you have to make the necessary changes by cleaning up your diet to start. And then if there's a continuous issue beyond that, seeing the right specialist.
Amen. I agree with all that. The only thing I'll add to what you were talking about, like those heart symptoms, and as a healthcare provider, I just feel like I have to say this: time is muscle. If you're ever having heart attack symptoms, whether you think it's heartburn or not, just go to the hospital. It's better than losing part of your heart forever. But that's my soapbox, I guess.
And let's go back and just quickly say that's because you're smart.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. But yeah, that's something that everybody should know is you're not weak and you're not whining, you're not whatever you want to call it. If you go get the help, especially when it comes to your heart and your brain. But one thing I want to ask you before we get into a little bit of like how people can find you, learn more about you, and get connected with you, Jeff, give me like two, maybe three quick things that you mentioned as far as ingredients that you've seen in the chemical industry in your 30 plus years experience there that are bleeding over into that food industry that would surprise and maybe even make people go, holy cow, I'm going to go down in my cupboard right now and throw that away.
Yeah.
What are some of those things that stick out to you the most?
So so one of those ones from the chemical industry that I see is trisodium phosphate. And trisodium phosphate was a product that was used in cleaning products to get the dirt to break free from surfaces. And what trisodium phosphate was doing was causing algae plumes in fresh waterways. And because of that, states started to outlaw phosphates. So you will see states out, cleaning products that say phosphate free for that very reason, because states have outlawed it. So it's not only trisodium phosphate, but there are other phosphates that you will see in food products that have been outlawed from the chemical industry, and now they're putting them in food. And trisodium phosphate, or TSP, cracks me up, because if you go read an SDS sheet on TSP, it says, and one of them says, vomit immediately, all right, if you consume it.
Wow.
And the other one says, call poison control or consult a doctor immediately. So I don't know whether to run to the hospital or to throw it up after eating something with TSP in it, right?
Yeah, right.
So, and bear in mind, the quantities that are being used are minimal. But the problem is all these quantities are being used minimally in so many meals and drinks and stuff that we're having in a day. It adds up. And it's the adding up that gets us. So, trisodium phosphate, it is most common in kids' cereals and in other cereals, Cheerios, I think it's in Cheerios. So, we go out and we're shopping for healthy stuff, and we see things like heart healthy or gluten-free. I will tell you, potato chips have always been gluten-free, right?
Yeah.
And heart healthy is just somebody paid the right amount of money to get that ticket on their thing. In reality, the reason it says heart healthy is because it contains, whole grains. And if it contains whole grains, at some point we got caught onto this idea that whole grains were healthy and that we had to have them to be healthy. Yeah. And the problem is that mixed signaling information that's being advertised and marketed to is what is causing us to go out and buy those products and to eat them and then get sicker and sicker as time goes on.
Yeah.
One rule of thumb is if your product is, if the food that you're buying is being advertised to you, it is most likely not healthy, because you'll never see an advertisement for an organic tomato or an organic head of lettuce or organic carrots. You will never see that. Yeah. And then another ingredient, which is my biggest pet peeve, because of, again, these trends that happen in the health and wellness industry. When we went whole grains, we also went low fat, and low fat meant, low calorie. So when we see things that are low fat, low calorie, chances are they're also low carb. And in that low carb, they're containing a product called sucralose. And I bet you if you go into your cabinet, you'll easily find a half a dozen products that contain sucralose easily for the standard American, or go in your fridge. It's probably in just about every drink. It used to be that they would only put it in those drinks that were zero calories or zero carb. And the reason they could get away with that, because sucralose contains sugar. All right. It's not zero carb. It's just what they've done is they've taken sucralose and they've combined it with chlorine. And with chlorine, it becomes a much larger molecule. So it is now no longer caloric to the body. So it's non-caloric. So when you consume it, your body can't get it into the cells. So it just moves through our system. You're tasting it because it's 100 times sweeter than sugar, and they can use less of it, but you're tasting it. And as it's going into your system, it's going in there and killing off the important bacteria that's part of our gut microbiome, which affects so much of our health.
Hmm.
And, now they put it in everything because it's cheaper than sugar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those two products are like my biggest pet peeves. And then I could go on and on and on. And
Sure.
I really could.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that the other rule of thumb that I really have is everybody wants to be on the health and wellness bandwagon because it's like a $7 trillion industry, right? So there is
Yeah.
money to be had by convincing a consumer that your product is healthy.
Right.
And because of that, what's hold on, I just about lost my train of thought on that. But because of that $7 trillion industry, and Phil, I'm like totally spacing what was
Yeah.
like.
People wanting to make you think that, they want to get on that health and wellness bandwagon, and sell you a healthy product.
Yeah. You know what? Hey, I totally lost it. If I
That's
think of it,
okay.
we'll come back to it. So
Sure.
what happens when you start thinking about what you're thinking about? Don't ever do that.
Don't do that. Yeah. Rabbit hole. No,
Yeah, damn.
yeah.
Oh
You were
well.
talking about a rule of thumb, general rule of thumb. If
Yeah, it was a general rule of thumb. Oh,
that's okay. If you think about it, we'll come.
yeah. Let's just move on. If
We'll
I
come
think
back
about
to
it,
it.
we'll come back to it.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think that's great. I'm gonna go look at some stuff that I thought was maybe healthier for a variety of reasons, but if it includes one or two of those things, I will no longer be taking it in.
That's okay. That's what it
It?
was that I was going to share with you. I got it now. Another general rule of thumb is this, and it comes down to trust, right? The problem is there's so much mixed information out there. Like I've read in books, and I tend to believe this because not that I'm a conspiracy theorist, like I'm not around chasing alien conspiracy or that we never landed on the moon or that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But when it comes to food, it's all driven by money. It's partly why,
Yeah.
here in the United States, we have an entirely different set of daily recommended allowances than the World Health Organization sets, because who sits on our FDA? But big food industry, right? So
Yeah.
they're the ones who are convincing you that you need this in your diet when the rest of the world is saying, no, you don't, right?
Right.
And it's why we're far behind, the European Union in our way of thinking when it comes to food, and why most food companies who manufacture products here manufacture a clean product over in the European Union. So, take that into consideration with what I'm about to say. It comes down to trust, and everybody wants on that $7 trillion bandwagon of selling a healthy product. But how can you trust a company that sells a healthy product here and a product that's killing you over here? So when I see companies like Coca-Cola who are putting products in or ingredients in a product that is completely unhealthy, like phosphoric acid, which helps leach calcium from your bones, and sucralose, and other colorings and such, make that product, and then over here they're making some clean product from the Coca-Cola company that they bought out some company that went out there with a great intention to make a healthy, safe for the consumer product, and now big corporation owns them and they're bringing them to the big market. I have a trust issue with how can I trust them if they're doing that here and over here they're not. You know what I mean? And how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So it's partly why I was drawn to Arbonne from representing it. Why, what would ever take a guy who come from a chemical industry to go out and represent a company like Arbonne was because they have a chemical, or they have an ingredient policy that bans over 2,000 ingredients that they will not work with. We are botanically based. We don't test on animals. We never will. We will not test on animals to go into another country like China, which requires it. We will pass that business up because, Arbonne wants to be the best company for the world, not the best company in the world.
Yeah.
So they are on a daily basis doing the right thing. And the ingredients that they use are only ingredients that are beneficial for the body. And if the ingredient does not have a benefit, they will not use it.
Yeah.
So
fantastic.
Comes down to trust. You got to find companies that you can trust.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. No, that's fantastic. So I have just a couple more questions for you, 2 quick questions. But before we do that, tell people how they can get a hold of you, Jeff, if they want to learn more about what you do, how those products can help them specifically. What's the best way for people to learn more about you and to be able to reach out to you?
Well, you can definitely find me on Facebook. Jeff Long. And I will tell you that could be a problem because there are a lot more Jeff Longs than I even realized. But you could also reach out to me on my email. So, which is jeffandlynlong@gmail.com. And yes, I know it's a Gmail address and not an Arbonne address. Because I am a consultant for the company, so I represent the products. I don't actually represent Arbonne. Like I don't work
Yeah.
for Arbonne. I work for me representing their products.
Perfect.
And so anyways, Jeff and Lynn Long. So JEFFANDLYNNLONG@gmail.com. So my wife and I, we do this together. Arbonne has a lot of other products because, part of our health isn't just nutrition and diet. It's also the stuff we put on our skin and nutrition. And Arbonne covers so many different things like clean makeup, clean skin care, and things like that. And I couldn't begin to tell you how to put makeup on, Phil. So that's where my wife is far better at, being a consultant in that situation than me.
Yeah. Perfect. Fantastic. We'll make sure we have that in the show notes as well, so everyone can easily access that. So last two questions here, Jeff. What is your definition of strength?
Of strength?
Yes.
Oh boy. I think there's so much involved in strength. It's not just and it's not what we can pick up. It's not the amount of weight that we can pick up. I think strength is having the ability to live a healthy life where you can do the things you want to do, not wish you could do. Yeah. And also having strong mental strength, strong moral strength, having all those things that just come from making the little right steps in your life of eating healthier, getting more exercise, taking care of yourself. These are all things that I've really woken up to in the last 7 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Great answer. And the last question I have for you is, what is your true purpose in life?
My God, it's to help other people.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. It. I'll do it until the day I die.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Well, you're doing a great job, Jeff. Thank you so much for,
thanks, Phil.
Thank you so much for sharing all this stuff with us. I think it's good to get out there to get past, like I said, some of the stigma that things like Arbonne, because it's been around for a while. And I think people see it through a lens that isn't as accurate, because I've looked into this stuff myself and I've talked to folks like yourself about it, and there's something there. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing that with people. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. And thank you all out there for listening. If you found something valuable in this, please share it with someone you know, love, and trust who could also find value in this information, so that we can get this out to even more people. As always, subscribe, set up notifications and auto downloads so that you always know when episodes drop. And we always appreciate 5-star rate and reviews wherever you are listening to this podcast. So Jeff, thank you again. Everybody out there listening, thank you so much for listening, watching, however you took this podcast in today. And we will see you back here next time on the Strength for Your Purpose podcast. Go make it a great week, everybody.